So the next thing we're going to do is the other belaying scenario is a top belay setup. So I might just grab the other.
Oh, that's what I reset up.
What was that?
Oh, I set up as top belay by default initially. That's all.
Ah, cool,
I
cool.
was my anchor. That's all.
All right. Here's one I prepared earlier.
So while they're setting up, a word about the mountain hitch. The mountain hitch is still like used a lot in alpinism, like for the guys that go like very, very long routes because they don't want to carry the extra weight of having some belay device. So when I was like climbing in Switzerland, I saw that many people walking with a mountain hitch. I was like, what the hell is going on, guy? Technology arrived, please. And actually, like, in a climbing gym in Zurich, so there's a rule: you cannot be barefoot in the climbing gym, but you can belay with a mountain hitch. Like,
crazy.
Anyway, that was my mountain hitch story.
All right, so I'm going to get maybe a close-up of this. So we've got our anchor set up here, and normally we would set up our device in guide mode, except we've dropped it. So we're essentially, we want to belay off the anchor, but we're going to do it once again with our awesome munter. So I've got this part that's tied into the climber. Susan would actually be down the cliff somewhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rope through the carabiner. So the load will be coming from this side. That means this is the brake. So what I'm going to do, except there's no load on it yet. I'm just going to turn this around, make life easier for me. All right, lock that up. All right, so I'm just going to pull that tight. I'll just take the slack out so you can put your body weight on it. Yep. All right, so you can load that now. All right, so I'm just going to let it roll over. Yep. All right. So you can see there, have you got your whole body weight on that? Maybe we can I'll take up more slack and get more weight on it so we can demonstrate how strong it is. Okay, you can load that fully now. All right, so once again, you can see that I've actually not even holding it particularly strong there, but I've got the two strands parallel to each other, and that's locking it off. So I'm going to very gently lower Susan, just by easing it off a little bit in that direction. You can see it starts to slide, and it slides pretty smoothly. You can see there that Susan is being lowered down. All right. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. All right. Any questions on this one?
James, because it's rope on rope, does this damage the rope?
Look, it is definitely much more hard on the rope than any other sort of method you could use. Like if you have your device, you're going to use that. This is really like a get out of jail kind of emergency. I mean, as Cedric was just saying before, there's a lot of people that still use the munter for everyday scenarios, but the reality is it is going to wear your rope out quicker. And it also, a lot of people will say that actually it twists the rope quite badly, but that's actually not completely true. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, just depending on how it's been set up. And it is true that sometimes, depending on how it is tied and configured, it can twist your rope quite badly, which obviously wears it out. but it's not 100%, just depending on how it's set up. Does that answer that? Yeah. Was there any other questions on this one?
That's going quite smoothly. I don't think that's just it.
Is the only difference the way that, like this one, you're above the person's going down, and the other one you were helping the person climb? I'm pretty
Sorry,
new.
I just missed a bit of that. Can you say it again?
Is the difference between this one and the previous one that this one you're helping someone go down a cliff face and the other one you're helping them go up?
Okay, so this might not have been completely obvious. So the first scenario we're doing was belaying off the harness. Say I'm at the bottom of the cliff, and the climber is either lead climbing the cliff, or maybe they're on top rope. So you have a top rope set up, but either way, I'm below them, and I'm belaying them as they go up. So this scenario here, off this anchor, is what we call a top belay setup. So I'm already at the top of the cliff, and they're coming up from below.
Okay.
So, yep.
I'm pretty new to this, so that's what I'm asking.
That's all right. That's right. No problem. Now, what you'll notice here is that this was actually, even though this worked as a belay device, it wasn't essentially equivalent to my guide mode setup that I had before. Does anyone know why?
How like your hand guard?
Say it again. Was that Nicole? I think that was Nicole's voice I recognized.
Yeah, guide mode has auto lock. This one doesn't.
It has auto lock. Excellent. Perfect. So we can actually, if we happen to have another spare carabiner available, remember we're improvising, if we happen to have another one, we can make this auto locking as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. We're going to clip the loop and then back onto there. And now, if you want to load that, I can feed it through, but it's completely auto locking. So I'll feed a bit through as if you were climbing. So take the load off. I'm going to feed it through and now fall. And it's auto locking. Magic, huh? Magic. Now you have to set that up the right way. If you do it the other way, of course, it auto locks in reverse. And so Susan would keep going and yeah, you wouldn't. So make sure you load test that before you do it. I'm just going to demonstrate how to do it again. So I'll take it out. So our normal setup, okay, is like this with the knot rolled over that way. Okay, now to make this auto locking, if you could take the load off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the knot over, just dress it a little bit. Oh. Okay, so I've just dressed it so it looks like a munter. I'm going to now clip the loop and then clip also to that load side. I'm going to lock that. And now what happens is it can feed through and it's auto locking.
Oh. So
Makes sense? And then if she's climbing again, then I can feed through and then auto locking. And there you go. You've managed to improvise a guide mode device out of a carabiner and a munter hitch. Is that pretty cool?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you lower Susan down if she needs some rod?
I always carry a knife. And no. So how do I? Sorry, how do I lower her down in this configuration?
Yes.
It's difficult. I'd need to, just like with your guide mode, right?
Yeah.
You know how guide mode is difficult. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to lower her down here, I'd probably have to take the load off this. You know, I'd probably put a Prusik on, take out this carabiner, and then just lower her with the munter. So with a straight munter, it's no problem to lower her because
Yeah.
So you need to get, you basically, it's auto locking, so you can't really, you know, you can.
It can't flick through.
Yeah. So you need to remove that locking biner. So I guess in the sense that you don't have the ability to leave her open like you do in a guide mode and let it flow. But of course, we're improvising in the, you know, with minimal gear. So
James,
you're just
I had the carabiner go through the other one and not lock because it was a smaller carabiner. That I
Sorry, say that again.
I had the other carabiner go through the first carabiner.
This carabiner are you talking about? Went through this one?
Yeah, it was smaller, so.
Did you roll the knot over first before you did it? It shouldn't be able to, because that's why, because you clip it to this side, it shouldn't be able to even travel that way. If you didn't clip it to this, then it could potentially flip up there, and if it was smaller, it would go through. It would still be blocked if it was bigger, of course, but that's why clipping to this side should stop it from flipping through at all.
Clipping the load side?
Clipping the load side. So roll the knot through, clip this, it shouldn't be able to go through. Maybe just get in there and see if you can, from this angle, so they can see that part. Does that shot help at all? Have you got the same setup? Are you making progress there, Salome?
Trying. I must not be clipping the loop in the correct place.
So it's the loop that wraps around the brake rope and then the load side. So you can see we're sort of clipped on both sides. So there's no way for it to travel. Let's actually put a lot of slack on there and see if we can. See, if it was to go through there, it'd have to take that rope through with it, which obviously is not going to happen. There are a few different ways to clip it and only one that kind of works. So, yeah, do you want me to do it again?
Slowly.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So maybe you could, do you know what you did incorrectly? Because it'd be good maybe to explain that to everyone so we don't make the same.
I was clipping where it wrapped around the carabiner instead of the rope, I think. Like it was on the wrong side of the load rope of the loop.
Okay, so load rope. So this loop here.
I think.
Right, I see. Yeah. Okay. So very important fact is, that's the way the munter works normally for the belay. To roll the knot over, just redress the knot so that it makes sense. Then this loop here that wraps around the brake end, clip that, and then clip that to the load end, to the climber end.
I had it backwards, and it was effectively brake. It was on the brake. The auto brake was on the brake side, which is
right. See, now it's locked. Yeah. Cool. Do we have any more questions on this one? I reckon this is a very cool one myself. I love it.
Well, now I'm pulling on the brake side, so I'm trying to get it back. But you want it to auto lock on the load side, so as long as it doesn't.
I guess the point that Nicole made is actually probably a good one. If you think that you're probably going to have to do some lowering at some point, then probably not a great idea to do this. And there are other ways to create an auto lock. You could use an auto block or a climb heist with a Prusik on this to provide that progress capture. So there are other ways to do it, but I won't cover those now. And in fact, maybe you can innovate a little bit from some of the stuff Susan is going to show in a little while. All right, so I'm going to move on to something else. So before I get off the belay improvisation, are there any questions or just comments anyone wants to make on that before we move along? No? Excellent, great. All right, okay, so the next thing is improvising a descender. So similar scenario, maybe you dropped your ATC or you dropped your wrap rack, whatever it is, and we can actually use the same munter to actually abseil as well. So I'm just going to quickly set up an abseil line here, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you. So
I'll take it a bit higher to that goal.
you and safety, yeah, cool. Cool, thank you. Oh, it's getting a bit cold, isn't it? Oh, there is someone climbing up here now. All right, okay, so I've got an abseil line here, but I've got no way to go down because I've dropped my descender. What am I going to do? So I'm going to use the old munter hitch once again. So I might just tie it onto the rope. So I'm going to put it through the, as I did before. Load this time is coming from the direction of the anchor. Let's pull up a bit more slack. Gosh, this thick 11mm rope, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to reorient myself here. You're right, Susan. This rope is very thick.
Big.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and I've got the brake around the wrong way. All right, cool. All right, so just get myself set up there. All right, so if you can zoom in there, show that. So a couple of important things is I've got my munter on there and I've got my brake line on the spine side of the carabiner. So it's not on the gate side. In the rappelling scenario, this is particularly important. It was important in the other one, but it's even more important here because there has actually been some documented accidents and fatality from having this on the wrong side, where the brake line moving past has actually undone the gate and then they've slipped off the carabiner. So it's very important to have it on that side. Now, something that might not be straight away evident, we'll just pull up a bit more, is that in fact, for the munter, the best braking position is actually like this. But this is actually a particularly difficult way to rappel, but it's not actually needed. You don't actually need to lock off in this way. You can actually still use the traditional braking method. It's not as solid as that would be, but it's much more natural and it works just as well. It also means that I can set up any third hand type situation that I want in the same way. So I might just actually demonstrate that. So if I was doing this for real, which I'll do, for me personally, I would extend this.
Actually, yeah.
And somewhere here, I think I've got a Prusik, yep. Now this is a really thick rope, so I suspect I'm actually going to have absolutely no problem on this. But if I was on a small little climbing rope, like a, you know, some sort of mid 8 something mil bit of craziness that people are using, you find that it would actually run pretty fast, and it might be difficult to generate enough friction. So what you can actually do is, we still have this same setup and with my guide hand, but in fact you can actually take this rope all the way around behind you and use your left hand to help regulate the friction. And I might just come off safety now and actually demonstrate that. All right, so I'm going to come to the edge. You can see my munter there. I've got my Prusik here. And I'm over the edge. And you can feel I've actually got quite a lot of friction there. I feel like I've actually got pretty good control. So, yeah, and I can easily let it through. So, what's next on the list? Do I just go to the bottom and then walk around? Maybe I will. What do I do now? All right, well, Susan can talk to you for a minute about this one while I go around. See ya. Hey, good.
I can't hear you, Susan.
Hey, any questions so far? Make it easy, please.
Why is it called a Munter Hitch?
Is that a German or Italian word? Italian Munter Hitch. Who's
I have
Italian?
no idea.
Ask the Italian.
No, it has an umlaut.
If I just
Munter,
tap
right?
Munter on Google, the first thing that comes up is Urban Dictionary. That comes from British slang, which means ugly woman. I'm like, what? So yeah, I don't know.
Thank you.
Like, I have no idea why they call it this way, but that's the first like Google result I get.
It's an Italian word, I believe. So I didn't look into it. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna Google it.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Any questions about what James has just demonstrated? Abseiling on a munter with a backup belay. Okay. So when we resume and do this practice in real life, we're going to all see you do that.
So I don't have a question, but I have additional point.
Comment?
Is to try to for people that didn't do that much before, is to keep at least 10 centimeter ish between your Prusik and your belay device or your Munter Hitch, so that your Prusik is effective.
I'm alive.
Okay. That's true.
Susan,
Thank you.
It's named after a Swiss mountaineer, Werner Munter.
Werner Munter.
Werner Munter. So it's no one's name. A Swiss mountaineer.
Oh, I wonder if he invented that. Okay.
Maybe I'll send you down next one.
All right. Okay. But James, and not James, Cedric did mention a good point. So when you use a backup hand belay or third hand, like James did, you just got to make sure that wherever your device is, whether it's a wrap rack or a auto guide or even a carabiner, it's got to have some distance so that when you slide up and go down,
I can't touch the device.
Yeah, it's basically the Prusik doesn't go in and jam into the device. So
that's a very good point.
Cedric did say the 10 centimeter gap, but the whole idea is just to
when you're coming down, make sure that your Prusik is distant enough so that it doesn't jam into the vise.
I would say when you do your load test, just load up and see if it slides up. And if it is anywhere near touching it, then you need to reset up.
Okay.
Can I get you to just zoom in on it or redo it again? I've just finally got it set up and I'm trying to check if I've done it the right way around.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of that. What was it?
Can you just retie the knot, just so I can see if I've set up the right way? I've just finally gotten it to what I think is correct.
Oh, I'll do it the other way. Just going to spin it round because it's not good for my right-handedness. Sorry, I keep forgetting the camera's there. Apologies. Get my safety out of the way. All right, can you see that?
Yep. Okay. I've got the free end coming from the other side of the rope.
What, sorry, say which end? This end?
Yeah. So up the top, the other side, the one on your right hand.
This end, yeah.
Where it's looping around the top, I've got it looping around the other way around. From right to left instead of from left to right. Yeah, I've got it going around.
Okay, so that means your brake is next to the gate?
Not quite. No. I'm saying that I've actually got it wrapping around the back of the rope from the other way around.
Back this, so it goes around here.
Yeah, and then coming down through to your right hand.
Okay, if you load it, so if I pull it through, for example, is it that sort of scenario?
No.
No? So you've just got it reversed, so as if it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Because all it is just looking at it upside down, that's all. Not upside down, just the other way around.
Get used to.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
I think the way it feels when it flips.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep, all right. That'd be great. Yeah, thanks. That one. All right. So next on the list. Any other questions that arose from that?
Yeah, Althea here. It's a bit of a curveball question, but can we do the same on a double rope? Can we rappel off a double rope with a muncher?
That's right. So in fact, with a double, if you've got two ropes, let me see if I can just do it with this one over here. You would actually just tie the knot as if you've got a single rope. So let me see if I can make this work because these ropes are different. So I'm just going to, one of them is weighted.
Do you just do double muncher? No, he does two. You're doing two separate muncher hitches?
It's the same. I just grab the rope like it's one piece of rope. This is for rappelling. If you're a belaying, you'd do it two separate ones. You'd actually set it up differently. But I'm just gonna, can you see the knot there? Let me just dress it a little bit better and see if we can make it a bit more obvious what's going on.
Yeah, he just did basically like on a bite. You just treat this two strands as one.
There we go. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like treat it like one piece of of rope, even though you've got 2. What I would say though is just dress it neatly. I could probably even dress this a little bit better actually. Just try and keep both strands, because you can see how mine swaps over. I'd probably want to keep them all on the same side. So just take a little bit of time to set that up, but it'll basically work in exactly the same way. You'll have a lot of friction.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, no problem. I will say in the belaying scenario though, you tend to not do that. What you would do is actually use 2 carabiners, and if you on double ropes,
Actually, I clipped that way better.
you would have 2 separate draws. It means that you can feed one at a different rate to the other. So that's why you would have them separated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Great question. Thank you very much. Anyone else? No. Okay, so I've got one more improvised descender to do, and then we'll move to another section. So let's say you were lead climbing on some sort of crazy multi-pitch that's well outside your grade, and you probably shouldn't be there, but you are, and now you've decided you've got to bail out and you don't have a descender on you. All you've got is a few quick draws. What are you going to do? So in fact, what you can do is you can make yourself a descender from a couple of quick draws. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to strip these quick draws down for their carabiners. Was that a question there?
You're disassembling the carabiners.
Yep, I'm just disassembling these quick draws, stealing out the components. This is climbing MacGyver 101. This one's a bit stuck. Is there another one that's a bit loose?
Really do that very well.
Actually, I think I've got it now. Got it now.
Not easy, but
hard to get off. We need the dog.
If you've got nice petzels like mine, they can get really hard to get them off one end. But
good. I'm just gonna only take the wallet in.
You need 4 carabiners. So if you take the loose end off 4 different quick draws.
Yeah, that's my strategy.
Yep. Oh, actually, I need a bent gauge. I need it to match. Sorry.
Oh, you need the bent gauge.
No, you don't need the bent. I just want them to match.
No.
Sorry, Susan just handed me a
loose
separate
end
one.
should be the straight gauge.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. Cool.
That's why
I've got one extra now. I'll give you that one back. Cool. All right. Cool. So what I'm going to do is, oh, no one saw that. I didn't drop that carabiner.
Micro fractures.
Quick. Edit that bit out. Ronnie, save me. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 of the quick draw, the carabiners. Now these first 2, it's really important that they're actually opposite and opposing. Okay. So this one's going to provide you a bit of redundancy. Does everyone know what that means? Anyone who's done Fox Skills 2?
Yep.
Yep. Everyone's happy with opposite and opposing? Yep. All right. Cool. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our rope and we're going to pass a bite through the 2 of them. Yeah. Do you want to do it? Yeah, then you can come around. Okay. Then what we're going to do, and just maybe put a third hand on as well. We're going to clip this carabiner onto here. This is a little bit fiddly, this. So we're just clipping it on there so I can slide that back over the top like that. So it should look kind of familiar already. You've got this kind of braking action. And then I'm going to do the same with the other carabiner. Now these ones, it's actually better if you have them round the same way, because then you get the same like section of shape on the carabiner at the same point the rope's going over, rather than, so you definitely don't want them you know, opposing each other like that, or opposite rather. And if they're opposing, you'll tend to get kind of a different part of the shape as well. So actually doing them around the same way here is totally fine. So I'm going to just click that on there. And put that over there and pull that tight. Okay, cool. Does that make sense? Any questions at that point?
No, it looks good.
All right.
Why
So,
do you need both of them? Those
So-
ones are going across. Why wouldn't one just not be sufficient?
look, actually one would be, but in fact, by putting more stuff in here, you've got, because you strip down a quick draw, you've got 4. By putting this in, it actually gives you a bit more friction.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing in this scenario. So, you know, you're improvising anyway. I mean, you could get away with just one, but, you know.
In case you dropped your carabiner.
Yeah, that's right. If I drop one, I'd still go with just one. What I wouldn't compromise on though is these two.
Those two. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So those two have to be secure, and that's why they're opposite and opposing as well. Now, I enjoy living, so I'm going to send Susan down on this one. All right. So we're going to set Susan up on it. Actually, you're doing the next thing though, aren't you? I don't think I have anyone. I think you're tying in, aren't you?
Time's up. Oh, I can't present today.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got the harness to do. Oh, you're right. All right, cool. All right,
Another
cool.
day.
Yeah, all right. All right, so then we clip in there. Now, if you actually didn't have this carabiner as well, you could actually use a third quick draw and take 2 and make them opposite and opposing here to clip yourself into it. Use 6 carabiners in that way. Now, if I had my belayer down the bottom, you could get them to give you a fireman's belay and it would work exactly the same. In this case though, Susan's going to put a Prusik on so that she's nice and safe as she goes down.
Okay. Yeah, we basically just we've built a
Yeah.
Sorry, James, where does the carabiner clip into?
So we'll just come in close up on this bit here. So this belay loop is connected to this locking carabiner, and the locking carabiner goes through both of those ones that are opposite and opposing. Just in there.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank
Cool.
you.
This is actually called a Carabiner Break, this setup. And this actually, in the old days, you know, when people used to climb on bits of rope with no harnesses and stuff, this was actually how people got into climbs. This was the way that they went and, you know, would abseil in. So it was the standard method.
You could use normal fat carabiners.
Yeah, you can use normal fat carabiners as well. Yep.
All right. So I've got my auto block on, and I'll bring it down to make sure it's far from the device. And I've just tested it, nice and tight.
I frankly like that better than lunch.
I'm not
fiddlier, but
myself on safety,
it's really how it descends.
and then hand on the brake. Test load. And off I go.
Have fun. Enjoy.
And I'll leave James to entertain you.
I could do a song and dance routine. So how's the friction on there? Is it feeling pretty good?
So yeah, it's not very nice and tight. So it's kind of a medium friction, not too loose and not too tight. But yep. But I know I've got my back up. If anything should happen to me, and I let go of both hands, then I know I've got this trusty auto block to stop me. See you later.
See ya. Have fun. It's a nice abseil, actually.
James, when would you choose to use that setup versus a multi-hitch? Is that always recommended to try and use something like that if you've got the gear?
If you only have draws.
If you only had draws, so like, I mean, look, if you prefer it to, like, I don't necessarily think, like, sometimes these scenarios can be high stress situations. So I'd use the one that makes you feel most relaxed. but you might not have an option. So if you're midway up a lead climb and you had to abseil off it or something like that, and you couldn't be lowered down or whatever, maybe gone past the halfway mark in your rope, then maybe you only have quick draws and that's all you can do. You know, maybe you're not confident about the munter hitch. Maybe you know, because it does take it's quite a exhilarating descent on a munter hitch. You know, it's a different feeling, that's for sure, if you've never done it before. So it depends what gear you got and what you're comfortable with. That would be my answer. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Having said that, though, this is actually going to be gentler on your rope as well. It will probably put a little bit of a groove in your carabiners, though, if you did it often. So, yeah, choose which gear you're going to wear out, I guess.
Or sometimes you don't have the choice. Like one reason why people also lose gears on long routes, it's very rare, but it happens, is gear loop of your harness breaking off for whatever reason. Either you misloaded something and pulled too hard on that, or just a whole harness. And yeah, in that case, it's better to know the different techniques, because you don't know which gears will fall and which gears you will have left.
That's a very good point. Yeah, use the gear you got.
Oh, he's getting cold too.
Can I get you to just pop those up near the laptop there? Thanks. All right. So, any more questions out of that, or any other tidbits like Cedric just gave that anyone has? No? Okay. All right. Well, the next thing I'm going to cover is the harness. So there's all sorts of scenarios where you might find that you don't have a harness. Maybe your harness breaks. Maybe you've forgotten it. Maybe you weren't intending to, say, do some abseiling, that sort of thing. Who knows? But if we have a sling, was that Susan? Okay. Susan, you know where the rope is? The one to climb up over there. Okay, cool. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we, actually, I'm going to take the jacket off again so it's not in the way. All right, so first thing, we're going to make a seat harness out of a sling. So for this, all you actually need is your sling. This is a 120 sling. So if you go online, there's all sorts of tutorials about making harnesses and things, but often they're made from specific lengths of cord or from webbing, which in reality, most people just don't have at the crag. But usually you do have a 120 sling and you usually have carabiner. So with that, we can take, it's going to be hard with my harness on, isn't it? I'll tell you what, I'm going to go all the way and I'm going to take my harness off.
Oh, you're committing. Man, if you are stuck without a heart, what has gone wrong?
Just the harness. I'm not taking anything else off, so don't worry.
That's it. I'm out. I was expecting more.
All right, so I'm going to stand over here because now I don't have a harness on, no safety. So I've got my sling. I'm going to identify the stitching and just kind of get that out of the way. And I'm going to put that round behind me. And I'm just going to pull it round so I've got two loops like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the carabiner and just lock that. Now, once that's sort of in place, I'm going to reach around underneath. Oh, just got to find the one that's on the bottom. Yep. And I'm going to grab that one. And I'm going to clip without my shirt. That one in there. I might just spin this around so it sits a bit better. And I've got this going underneath my legs, around my legs. Voila. All right, so if I just make something to tie onto so that you can see this under load.
Oh man. We're not going to enjoy this.
Not the harness It does look a little different.
Okay. Just pull that through a bit. All right, so you can see there, that's it under load. You know, it's holding me quite securely. Now there is quite a lot of slack in this system. I'm very unlikely to sort of come out of that, but you know, if I had a good inversion or something, then it's possible that I might slip out of that because it's not super tight around my waist. But certainly, if I needed to abseil,
You can't be
that
there.
would be fine. And if I needed to be hauled up, that would be quite fine. But what you can actually do in addition to this to make it a little bit more solid is you can actually add it in a improvised chest harness at the same time. So I'm going to add that to this and it'll make the whole setup just a little bit more solid. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take another sling. It's just another 120, the standard sort of anchor building one that you probably have on you. I'm going to put a twist in it so that I've got an X, and I'm going to put that behind me and then thread my arms through that. And I'm going to attach a carabiner. Okay, now the way I'm going to fix this into the rope is actually, I'm just going to clip it in loosely. So what this would actually stop from happening is if I fell or slipped as I was abseiling, I wouldn't invert. In fact, it keeps me kind of upright. That makes sense. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to take my descender and I'll demonstrate that for you. And it'll be then Susan's opportunity to entertain you. Okay. So after this, I've got one more exciting bit of harness innovation to show you. But first of all, I'll just demonstrate. So now what I've got here is I've got my descender on here. I've got my chest harness just clipped into the rope. So it's just going to keep me upright in case of any slippage and stops me from inverting. I've got my seat harness improvised from Slings. These are both just two 120 slings, and a few beaners. All right, I'm going to give that a go. Over I go. And I feel pretty safe and comfortable there. And I'll see you soon for questions.
Questions so far? Cool. All right, so the next thing that James is going to show us is how do you make a harness if you had no slings, no spare webbing, but from the rope you're going to abseil off. Isn't that cool? This session goes for about an hour, so we've still got quite a bit more to go. So we'll probably discuss with James if we're probably going to cut this in half and do another session. Can I just get a show of responses? Is anyone interested in learning how to Prusik? If I do a Prusik demonstration.
Is that using the Prusik to climb?
Yep. So how to use the Prusik to ascend and descend. And we'll probably show some shortcuts how to Prusik as well. But we'll definitely go through the hitches and all the knots. I'll post it up and just see if we get a good response.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone got any jokes? I'm so sorry. I'm clean out of jokes. I have an amazing view. Jess, you want to show them this view of Alfred's Point?
That's where they are.
Where are you? Alfred's Point. I was wondering. It looked like Menai kind of area, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah, close.
It looks amazing to swim in, but I've been told it's not.
Can I get a picture of me in our respective rope harnesses? Here, I'll see if I'll commit. I'll actually submit.
Okay, James is back.
Did we get any questions from that one?
There was no questions, and I didn't have any jokes.
No
Maybe
jokes.
I'll do a dance
You
next
should have
time.
asked Cedric. Cedric knows plenty.
Yeah, I got
got you.
6 photos, I think.
Oh man.
Dance or something, guys.
I got the photo, but then you just kept making better and better faces, so I had to keep pushing a button.
All right. All right, so I've got one more harness thing to do. We're going to get this gear off.
James, do you want to wrap the harness around me?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
It's actually, has everyone got some rope to work with? People have got rope. Has anyone got rope?
Yes.
Yeah, good rope.
Yeah, I got rope.
Yeah, it's all right.
Because this one actually is kind of intricate. So there's a...
James, just with this one, when you're going to show it, can you just move your hand or the rope slowly?
Sorry, what was that?
James, when you show this one, can you move slowly? Because when you move too fast, it's not very clear on the camera.
Okay, sure, will do. Just yell, please yell if you want me to slow down or whatever. I've got it's all for you guys, so just let me know. Okay. I didn't really say, I did say that, but I mean, if people want to, do you want me, how long have we been going for? 1 hour. Does anyone mind if we just keep going? We've got quite more content. I don't mind running overtime if you guys are happy to keep watching.
And Jake's pretty good at it as well.
I mean, people can bail out if they're done. So, all right. So next thing, we're going to build a harness completely from rope. So once again, if you go online, you'll find there's a whole lot of techniques for building harnesses out of bits of paracord or cord or webbing, those sort of things. And they all assume that you've got just handy a piece of webbing that you keep spare to make a emergency harness out of, which is just not really the scenario most people are going to find themselves in. So most of the time, if you're in this situation, you might have a few slings. You can use the sling version, or maybe you actually want a lead climb. So you want a harness that actually you could climb in and provides you proper leg and waist support. So the one I'm going to show you here is quite cool because it allows you actually to tie into the end of the rope that you're using and make a harness from that. So you'll actually be well and truly affixed to the rope. And you can lead climb on it. I have to say falling on it is probably going to hurt quite a bit because there's no padding. But, if you need to, you can. So, all right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just take a little bit of rope. We're going to leave a little bit of tail, and we're going to do an Alpine Butterfly. So does everyone know how to do an Alpine Butterfly, or do I need to go through that? Anyone? So I'll just keep going unless someone stops me and says, hey, show me that. All right. So what we're actually making here in this Alpine Butterfly is a loop that should be about big enough. It's going to actually turn into a leg loop. So we just want to make a loop. Now remember, on your harness, the leg loops have a little bit of space, and as it is with this one too, they should have a little bit of space. So I've got that kind of worked out. I'm now going to take this tail and I'm just going to tie it on with a barrel knot or a double overhand knot, whichever name you prefer, to get rid of the tail.
Get rid of the tail.
Well, like just shorten it up a bit, I think.
Yeah. If you can't tie a double barrel there, then I suggest you haven't got enough tail, because we do want to protect against it coming undone. This is actually one of the things I like about this technique that I'm going to show you, is that the tail is in the leg loop. You'll see some of the other ones that are around, the tail is in the waist loop, but in fact you want the waist loop to be the strongest part of the harness, because so you really don't want that coming undone. Whereas if this came undone, you'd have one leg loop undone. Not the end of the world as long as your waist loop is still solid. Does anyone need anything more on that before I move to the next bit?
The other way of tying an alpine is easier to make a huge loop. Oh, I see what it's doing. I'm a dork.
One thing I'll say is that this can sit a couple of different ways, this alpine. So just maybe try, and you want to sort of try the different orientations just to make sure that you've got that knit not sitting in the best sort of spot. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next bit. Now, this bit here is going to be important. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to tie a knot later on in this. So we actually want a little bit of length. So maybe a good length is to bring that right up into the groin and then just sort of measure, say, up to about the navel and back down, so that you've got just a little bit of slack. I'm not attached. And then we're going to put another Alpine Butterfly. I'm going to pull through a bit there. This one will probably require a little bit more adjustment. That looks about my leg thickness. Oh, there's a phone in my pocket. Let me just take that out. All right, so there we go. Now I can just see straight away, I know that's actually not going to be long enough. So I'm actually just going to feed a very small amount through. And I recommend you'll just have to do this a few times and you'll get to know what sort of extra lengths and stuff you need. So I'm going to feed a little bit extra through. And there is a bit of opportunity to adjust this once it's all together as well. Okay, a little bit more. All right, that's looking about right, because I know I need to actually tie a clove hitch into this later, and that's going to be about right. Okay, all right, so I've got my 2 leg loops. This next section coming out from, see, that's sort of what we got so far. Yeah. Does that make sense to everyone? Need anything more before I move on? No? Okay, this next section is actually going to be a loose part of the harness. It's not going to do any load. It's just to get the rope from here to the waist. So in fact, we just put a bit of length. We don't want too much because otherwise it'll be a bit of weird rope just hanging around. You might get in the way, but it does give us an opportunity to sort of do some adjustments later. So what we're going to do is measure out a little bit. So it's going to be from sort of there to there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bite, a big bite in the rope, big enough to go all the way around me. So it needs to be just a little bit bigger. Yeah, makes sense. What we're actually going to do here is we're going to make the waist loop using a bowline on a bite. So we take this massive bite and we're going to put a loop in it like that. Yep. We're going to take that loop there. We bring that through. And then we pass the whole thing around.
Sorry, I missed what you passed around.
Okay, I'll just do that again. So that's what it looks like, and I'll undo it and I'll redo it. So can you see that you've got essentially the basic form of your bow line, but we've got it on a bite. That's why we've got 2 strands. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to undo that and redo it.
That it?
Okay, so I'll just go back to the step before. So I've got my 2 leg loop pieces. I'm going to measure out a little bit there. And then from there, I'm going to create a nice big long bite and wrap that, measure that bite around me. Yeah, okay. Then I just know that's going to need a little bit more. All right, so then I'm going to put a loop into the rope, okay? And it's just as if I was going to tie a regular bowline. So normally with a bowline, you'd pass that through, you know, through the hole, and you go around this rope and then back down. But because we're doing a bowline on a bite, what we do is we take this loop here and we pass it around those loops. Animated Knots has a pretty good version of this. Oh, okay, cool. There you go. Apparently Cedric's ahead of me. Someone just told me. So thanks.
Don't forget, I read your mind, James.
It's true. Okay, so you've got a bowline on a bite. All right. Now we're just going to go through the process. We've got one more knot to do, but at this point we just want to sort of get the sizing kind of right. So I can, unless I've lost weight, I can see that that's going to definitely be a bit small for me. Now, the good thing about all the knots that we've used here are that they will hold super strong, but after they've been heavily loaded, they'll all be easy to get undone as well. And so once this is made, you can actually switch in and out of this pretty easily as well. So one thing I'd advise is to really dress this part really nicely. Make sure the strands don't cross over around your hips, because that point where they cross over will become a point of pain when you fall on it. You really want it to act like, you know, a belt with as much surface area as possible. So I'll just make sure these are sitting nicely all the way around. And now I'm going to tighten this up. All right. Now I'm going to, okay, are we all comfortable with that before I actually move on a little bit further? And make it a little bit tighter. Remember, this one is the one that really protects you, the waist loop. So make sure it's nice and tight and it can't slide down below the hips. So I'm having a bit of microphone trouble here. There we go. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to just put my right leg on. Now, if you'd started with the right leg, it'd be the left leg. So you're starting with the second leg and just putting that on. Now you'll remember what to do. All right, we'll try there. Okay, this I said about this bit. This bit is just a dead bit. It doesn't do anything. So you just want to keep it out of the way. Now this is going to be the end that my belayer is on. So what I want to do now is I want to attach my leg loops into this as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to clove hitch this on to the rope. Whoop. Might start that again. A bit more black. Now that's a total blue mess in there. But you might once again be better off looking up how to actually do that clove hitch. So can you see that I've got this rope here and that leg loop rope is hitched now onto that rope. Now what this does is this actually allows you a little bit of adjustment between the two legs. So I'm going to put the other leg loop on. And now I can see it's a bit to one side, so I'm just going to feed that through. And now you can see my leg loops are engaged with that rope. Bowline has me there. This is that extra slack bit that I was talking about before, so you might just want to poke that out of the way. And now I'm fully in. So in fact, what we might do is I might connect a quick draw up and get Susan to put me on belay, and I'll just hang on it, and you can see that the magic is real. Oh, quick draw. Actually, I'll just go through this locker. It's all right. Seeing as I dropped on exactly the same. Pretty sure that's my head. Oh, that's not so good.
What's the thing he clove hitch?
Sorry?
What's the thing he clove hitch?
I think the leg loop, yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to climb up a bit. Actually,
No.
yeah, maybe you could just all right a bit.
The rope's loose between them?
All right, and I'm about to take a fall. I'm going to fall on my amazing harness. Oh, and yeah, I can definitely feel that around here, but it's solid as. And I've got some weight in my legs as well. You know, now that I feel it, I can probably feel this actually, the legs could probably sit a little tighter. So I could probably make that adjustment, and I would end up moving some of the slack through into this sort of loop here, this extra loop, just by sort of tightening that one up, feeding it through this Alpine, and just then my legs would sit a bit higher and it'll take a little bit more weight off my lower back. Even better if you've got something like a jacket or something that you could use as padding, you can put that in there as well, make it a little bit better. Now, one other little trick you can do with this one, let's say I had this harness and I now needed to belay Susan. What I could do, you could just take me off the belay there, or feed through some slack, either or. Thanks. What I could do here is I can actually just put a figure of 8, a directional figure of 8 on, and now I've got a nice loop there which I can belay off, and I'm all harnessed in. There we go. Any questions on that one? The miracle harness out of rope. There we go.
Don't need to buy $100 harnesses anymore. Yeah, make them out of rope.
Do you use that figure 8 as attached to your pass as well?
This directional figure 8 that I just put in then?
Yeah. Or we should attach the pass on somewhere.
Do you know what I'd be inclined to do? I'd be inclined to sort of clip it either side here, like a girth hitch around here. Yeah, I mean, ideally you probably want it around this waist loop in some way. You could attach it here. I mean, to be honest, if in this scenario, I probably wouldn't use a PAS at all. What I would do is I would use my rope. So if I needed to clip in here, because I'm essentially well connected to this, I'd just put, you know, a clove hitch into the rope, put a carabiner through it, and then clip myself in. That way I can have a PAS as long as I want. See, I feel super comfortable being near the edge. I'm like fully harnessed up. I'm clove hitched in here, or I'm just going to spin that biner around. You know, I'm rock solid. You know?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, just to use the rope itself.
Sorry, say again.
Just to use the rope itself.
I would use the rope. Yeah, that's probably what I'd do. Yeah. I mean, you could conceive a way to connect it up in here, but I just, you know, you're improvising. Use the rope.
Yeah.
You dropped your PAS when you dropped your harness.
Maybe you're rescuing somebody who's unstuck, self-stuck with that, you know, somewhere
Someone's down
they're
in a
walking and
crevasse.
they've
Say that again.
the harness.
That's actually probably.
Was that a question about rescuing someone?
Oh, we were wondering, in what scenario would you find yourself without a harness, effectively? And Aaron was thinking that you're encountering someone else who's unharnessed.
Well, if I would only bother building something complicated like this if you probably wanted to climb on it, or if you had no other gear. Like if you're just doing an abseil or you wanted to haul someone, this is not the efficient way to do it. This is specifically create a seat harness that you could potentially lead climb on or whatever if you had to. If you're rescuing someone, I would use slings, or probably they've got a harness on themselves, but if they didn't have one, I'd use slings. That would be the, you know, with a chest harness as well, because really what you're trying to do is just get them up or get them down, depending on the scenario. Does that make sense?
So this is more like if your harness got damaged while you were doing a multi-pitch or something.
Yeah, if you're doing a multi-pitch and suddenly just your harness blew out and you're like, what do I do? You've got a couple of options. You can, like, with some gear, you could bail. So you could, you know, use slings to make a harness to abseil with. But if you wanted to keep climbing, then you could do this.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, this is quite different to all the other ones. You go online and you see I don't know, something about harnesses. There are a million American preppers out there who show you how to make a Swiss seat or some other tactical warfare harness. I don't know exactly what but they all require a specific length of webbing or cord, which you just are not going to have randomly on you. You know, you're on a big club trip and you might have a trip leader who's brought along some extra gear or whatever, maybe. But most of the time, you're going to need it for, you know, a day in the mountains or whatever, where something's just not gone right and you've got to use the gear that you've got. Any more questions on that? All right, well, I'm gonna just spend the next half hour getting myself out of this harness. And Susan now is going to talk about tying off. So I'm gonna get my other harness back on so I can be your model. All right, so
tie off on lead belay. While lead belaying.
or top rope. Have you got a microphone? Okay, so we might need to. Do you want to just take mine? Yeah. You don't mind having this in your ear?
Disgusting.
Oh no, I didn't have one on the other side. So you just need that one. That just you don't even need it.
I think we're learning how to effectively stop in the middle of the rope. Like you can use it like that, or it's a use a mule hitch.
Oh really? Which phone? Your phone?
You know how I normally tie off?
Like
Okay, sorry. I think one of the screens will has died, so we'll only got this one. Is that right? Okay, we've only just got the close-up one.
Yeah. Another bench or...
You'll be famous.
I think that is how you do it. Yeah, it is a mule hitch.
Might be.
All right, so James is just going to untangle himself and clean himself up and put on his harness while we'll show you how to tie off on while lead belaying and also when you're top belaying someone. Top roping someone. Top belaying. Okay. So basically the skills that you'll need is that you'll need to do like sort of a half mule hitch, but I'll show that all to you. And there's different ways you can tie off. You can, so let's start from the beginning. So we'll do, while lead belaying, a tie off. So James is climbing up, or your climber's climbing up, and for some reason or another, they need to take a longer break, they need to stop, or they need to set up, take a longer time to set up at the top, whatever they're doing. And you're not able to, basically hold. You need to be free. Perhaps you need to send some gear up to your climber. So if you need to have some hands free, but also have them locked off, then this is when you need to tie off your belay. So basically have a sort of like a permanent lock. Have them secure so that your hands as the belayer are free to gather gear or do something to send up to the climber. So let's say your James is almost ready. Yep, that's all right. We'll just wait him for 1 minute. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll
you want me to tie in?
Yeah, tie in. Yep. So we can demonstrate.
Okay. Double check. All right. All right, on belay. James is just going to climb up a little bit just for a demonstration. Yep. On belay.
Okay, fine. So full on. So exposed.
All right. Okay, James. Let me know when you want me to. Whoa! Wow, James is a lot heavier than I thought. All right. Okay. All right. So I've got his full load. James, you relaxed? You okay up there, James?
Oh, I'm having a great time.
All right. Did you need something? Do you need something? All right. Did you drop some
gear?
gear?
In my sock. I'm just gonna darn it.
Yeah, you have to put it
It's
back.
probably gonna take me about 20 minutes.
All right. He needs to all right, get himself fixed up. So while and I can't hold on to belay for 20 minutes, unfortunately. So I'm going to lock off. So all you need to do. So this demonstration is locking off through the carabiner. So make sure your brake his hand is on. Always, never let go. You could grab the brake hand like this.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's really cinched in tight, and also make sure that your brake hand is on as well, like this. Push a bite of loop through without trying to let go of the rope if you can. Pull up a loop and then pull through. Was that a bit too fast? Do you want me to do that again? So then, okay, and now I can let go of this because now that's tightly in the brake position. So have that about 1 meter out, have a lot of bite. And then basically you can put another half mule hitch through this. Always keeping at least one hand on the rope just in case it does slip. James, I got you locked off.
Oh yeah, cool.
You feel good?
Yeah,
feel secure?
Yeah.
Okay. And then basically, if you really want to tie off, you can just grab this loose end here. You can either tie it up here, just clip it up here, or you can tie it to a loop below just to get out of the way. Lock it off. Okay. And then pretty much that's secure. That knot is not going to go anywhere. But the main thing is to make sure, understand that this is in the locked braked position, a hard brake position like this. Sorry, was there a question?
Yes. Could you walk through? You pulled the bite through, and then what? How did you do that hitch again?
Okay. Yep. The half mule hitch. I'll show that again. No problems. So, okay, I'll do a demonstration as well while I'm here, how to release it. So basically, hold down tight, hard, the brake position, pull through the knot. James, I'm going to release the knot. Okay. You might feel a bit of a jolt. Get ready. So basically, you're back into this loop again, this single half mule hitch. And all you need to do is pull through, but make sure that you're ready. Let your climber know that you're about to pull through. Pulling through knot, you might feel a jolt. And then yank it down quick, like this, in downward position, through into brake position.
Have you done it yet? I haven't felt anything.
That was a quick snap. Sorry, James, I need to lock up again.
Oh.
Hang in there.
No worries.
All right, so just demonstrating again. So lock off hard. And then pinch the head into the brake position. Try not to let go with your brake hand, but push through a loop, a bite of rope through the carabiner. Slide that loop through like this. Twist it if you can, and then bring through that other loop. Do you guys see that? I can do it again.
Oh.
Is it the camera angle? Okay. I'm in brake position.
Oh, I gotcha.
Squeeze the head into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold like that.
Okay. Okay. So squeeze hard.
push through a loop. Bring that loop around to the other side. Twist. And then bring through a line like that. Yep. And the main thing, the main thing is that you have the knot coming around the main spine of the carabiner, not around the gate, but it's around the main spine. Bring about 1 meter out, and then have that tight. So make sure that your one hand is at least on the loop. Bring through, do another half hitch, mule hitch. Bring that loop through. Put it through, tie it off. Yeah, there you go. And that's nice. Nice and secure. You've got 2 half hitches through there. That's not going to go anywhere again. And then lock it through with a carabiner like this. And then you know that you succeeded because this, James is not sliding. This is all tight. This is all tight. This is not moving through the system. That's when you know that this has been successful, that you're not so successful. The other way that you can do it, James, I'm not happy with this knot. I'm going to redo it.
Okay. Sure.
So again, I'm going to release it. So put your hand back on, and then so this my non-working hand is the left hand. Bring out the loop with your working hand, your brake hand.
I'm gonna have to look at how she means by that.
Okay, so we're down to just 1 half mule hitch. Pull through. James, you might feel a jolt.
Okay.
I'm releasing the knot. So snap it out quick and then in brake position. But no jolt. All right. So the other way to do it, if you have a small carabiner and it doesn't, you've got no, and the rope is really fat and you can't fit it through 2 half mule hitches through your carabiner, you can do the knot up above the device. James, retying the knot.
Okay.
So again, squeeze the head of your device, put it into sharp brake position, put through 1 loop. Again, bring it around, do 1 twist, and then bring through the loop. That's 1 half mule hitch. And then bring the device, bring the loop up. I might have to do more, make it longer. Okay. And do a half mule hitch at the top.
Oh.
That might be a bit. Even 1's enough actually. That should be pretty tight. James, do you feel that you're sliding?
No,
and even if you wanted to be extra safe, you could do another. You have to make it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I thought it had long enough. Yeah. I mean, 1's enough, but if you wanted to, if you got a big tail, you can definitely try and lock it off. Yeah. Not quite long enough. Okay, so I'm just going to release 1. I've got 1 on. And then lock it to your one of your rated loops.
Yeah.
Okay, James, you feel secure?
Yep.
And that's not going in there. Okay, so to release it again, same kind of principle. James, I'm going to release the knot.
Okay.
Always keep 1 hand on.
Don't get those.
Get your brake hand on. So, okay, brake hand. Cinch it.
In the same direction as it ends up being in the same direction.
Use your brake hand to work the loose knot out. Okay, James, I'm going to pull out the loop. Get ready for a jolt. So again, sliding the loop through. Snap down into brake.
Comes up under.
Okay, lowering, James.
And then you put a carabiner.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's tying off while lead belaying.
tying off on top rope. It's very similar.
On top belay.
Top belay.
Yeah. Set an anchor up. I guess we use this one.
Yep. Yep. James is going to set up to anchor. We'll just reconfigure ourselves.
Oh, that was lead
Any
belay.
questions that came up from that?
Doesn't matter.
Any questions?
Top.
Sam, were you okay with the loops?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I will just add on that one. There's quite a few different ways of tying off.
I think
If you go
the whole
online,
point
you'll see there's
Yeah.
probably about 4 or
You can also
My method requires another carabiner.
Plus, they all have that common element of getting that strong break at the start.
maybe locked off.
But some
Could be locked
go
off.
through the carabiner, some go up the road. A few different variations.
I think, and also this version also works for your abseilers.
This works well.
So what are we doing again? We're doing
Top belay and then tying off top belay.
There you go.
I see if we can lock that one.
Either hanging out taking photos or something, or you get halfway through rappelling, you fix the rope.
All right, cool. Come on. All right, so load this up.
Yep, there you
Yep.
go.
So basically this is top belay on guide mode. So basically the way the ATC sets up, and this is especially designed ATCs, not all of them have this circular guide, additional.
Sorry, you were I made a mistake because you don't need to tie this. You're going to release it or
Yeah.
that's complicated.
Yeah.
We cover it or not? It's complicated.
Okay, so basically we just had a mini conversation. That's okay. Basically, if the tie off, if I'm lowering an abseiler or a climber, and then we're tying off, it's very much the same. You can pretty much, if you need to hide, I mean, this is a different kind of lock off in guide mode, but the other way is what you're on top belay, the climber or abseiler, and you need to lock off. It's exactly the same. Basically, you just lock off in brake position or whatever device you have, and then you push it a loop through, do a half mule hitch through the spine, or you can do double half mule hitch, or you can do 1 mule hitch through the spine and then 1 at the top. It's the same kind of scenario, but just once, instead of being at the bottom, you'll be at the top. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to move on. Okay, we're happy to move on from that. Any questions so far? That's all right. Okay, so the next scenario, James.
So the next scenario is we're going to get into hauling. All right. Hello there. Okay, can everyone hear me again?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is hauling. So the reason that we went through tying off is tying off's a really essential skill to have because sometimes you can't move straight into these different scenarios like hauling or whatever, and you need to sort of lock the system off, often when it's loaded in a dynamic situation, so that you can then move some gear around, change things, do whatever. So practice tying off under load. In fact, I should just say practice all of these things before you have to put them to use in the real world, because under stress, they all become 10 times harder. All right, so we're going to do 4 different scenarios from sort of simplest to most complex. Now, all of these scenarios, the person doing the assisting is at the top, and you're assisting someone coming up. So the first one I'm going to do is actually called a vector pull. I'm going to actually need an assistant when you're ready. So yeah. So the first few are actually assisted. So what we're talking about there is that the let's say it's a climber. It could be, you know, an abseiler or someone else as well. But basically, when it's assisted, they're actually able to give you some assistance in the process. So you're just actually helping them along with what they're already doing, or maybe getting them to participate in the lifting action as well. So Susan's just going to tie in here. How's the battery on that one going? Okay, no worries. All right. All right, cool. Are you happy to go off the edge of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, come off safety. I might actually, if you just, I can lower you back if you like. Yeah. Maybe down climb a little bit. Yeah. Take up. Yeah. Load it. Yep. All right. All right. So we might just demonstrate it from there rather than have to go all the way down. Okay. So the first, so we're on a guide mode setup here. So this is an auto locking setup. So we're not covering that today, but I'm just letting you know what the scenario is. Susan's tied in. Now let's say that Susan is climbing up and she just can't get through a move. So I've taken it in nice and tight, but it's just not enough to help her out. Now, anyone who remembers their sort of vectors and anchors, if you remember with our anchor, one of the key aspects to it is that we want to have the angle of the legs, you know, less than 90 degrees, you know, and ideally quite a bit less than that in order to minimize the forces. And if you remember, as that gets wider, the load actually increases quite significantly on the bolts to the point where you can actually have even more than 100% of the weight, which is counterintuitive, but more than 100% of the weight pulling on each of the bolts.
This can be your climber site.
So with that little bit of physics, what we can actually do is something very, very simple and create quite a big assist in the rope. So this is called a vector pull. And once the rope is loaded, you let your partner know, okay, I'm going to give you a bit of an assist. Are you ready to go?
All right, James, what do you want me to do?
So I'm going to give you a bit of an assist through the rope, and you're just going to pull yourself up, you know, at that move that you're having trouble doing.
Okay.
Yep. So all I'll do is totally perpendicular to the rope. I'll pull on that rope, and actually you can probably feel there's quite a bit of force there. And I'm actually not having to pull very hard. So if you load that, I can actually pull Susan up quite a bit. Like it might only be centimeters, but that could be enough just to get a hold.
Oh, thanks, James. I got that.
This actually amplifies my force. I'm actually not pulling that much at all. Yeah, like that's actually hardly any, and yet it pulls you right up. You can't really resist that. So that's called a vector pull. And that might be, yeah, all you need to do just to get someone through an extra little bit. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Yeah. All right. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do an assisted haul. So you can still load it. You're still stuck there. It wasn't quite enough to get Susan through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tail. Now let's assume this is a bit more vertical than this sort of setup that we've got here. I'm going to take the tail. I'm going to put a carabiner on it. And I'm just going to lower that down to you and say, can you clip that into your belay loop? Yep. All right.
Got it, James.
Okay, awesome. Now, what I'm going to do, just have a look where my hands are here. So I've got one hand on the brake line, and I've got one hand on that line that's coming through that carabiner. So I'm going to be pulling down this way and pulling up this way. And I'm going to get Susan to assist me on this one as well. So what I'm going to get Susan to do is to grab this strand. This can take a little bit because there's 3 strands there now, and you've got to make sure that Susan has the right one. So it was the brake line that's now going into that carabiner. And I'm going to get Susan to pull on that one at the same time as I'm pulling. So if you could grab this strand, Susan. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
And pull on that when I say, ready, go.
Wiggle that.
There you go. And again, pull. And so actually we're getting some mechanical advantage here. I think it's a 2-to-1 from memory, but someone might want to check that. I can't actually remember. If someone want to validate that with the internet? So I think it's a 2-to-1. Yeah. Not only that though, in addition to the mechanical advantage, I've actually got Susan helping me and myself. So we've got 2 people with a 2-to-1. So that might be enough. So that's actually can get you out of a lot of situations. Can anyone identify some limitations to this?
It might be difficult to set up with the climber over the edge.
Yeah, it could be. Obviously, depends on the scenario yet, but certainly there could be a situation where it's hard to set up.
If they're hanging from a roof or something, yeah, you might not be able to tell how far down they are and send them a right loop, I guess.
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, I actually have had to do this once before and had extreme difficulty setting it up because the route traversed diagonally. So getting the rope to them was extremely difficult. And so I actually ended up having to abseil about 1/3 of the way down to get the rope to them. So yeah, look, it can be awkward. Anything else? Any other problems with this? What are the limitations to it?
Well, your climber has to be conscious and relatively uninjured in their arms.
That's true, but we're assuming it's an assisted haul at this point. So let's assume that they're maybe they're panicking, but they're still conscious and willing to help. Maybe, sorry?
Is it easy enough to tell which rope she should pull?
No, it's not. It's easy enough for me, but it's not necessarily easy enough for the climber, especially if they're in difficulty and they are under a lot of stress. So you can tell them definitely not the rope that they're tied into. That's easy enough. Then the confusion comes from these 2.
Yeah.
So what I would tend to do is actually say, can you feel the rope I'm pulling?
Yep.
Okay, now grab the other one that goes to the carabiner. Okay, and I want you to pull on that. So that way you can identify it for them. Yeah. Any other limitations? Maybe I'll just point your eyes to how much rope is being used here.
A lot.
A lot. So if I've got a 60-meter rope and we're on a 40-meter climb and they're in the first 10 meters, can I do this?
Yep.
Nope.
No. No, I can't get the rope down low enough.
I've only gone 10 meters.
Yeah, they're still very close to the bottom. So I would have to feed a lot of rope out from the top.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
down there.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
did the
Oh,
wrong
you meant they were 10 meters from the top.
Yeah,
if they're 10 meters from the top, yes. Yeah. So, okay, so what I was trying to get at there basically is depending on the length of the route, length of the rope, how far the climber is, you might not be able to do this because it's actually going to take 3 times the distance to the climber of rope to get a loop down to them. Yeah, makes sense? All right. Any other questions on this one before we move on? So I've done a vector pull and an assisted haul. Any questions on those 2 before we move on to the unassisted stuff? Anyone want to add anything on those 2? Anyone had an experience with them? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And I think we'll hand over to Susan now, who's going to do the unassisted hauls. So I might tie in. And do you want me to go over the edge for these or do you? Okay.
Yeah, it helps.
Yep. All right. Cool. Well,
So we're just going to reset or show you the 3-to-1 haul.
So I'm going to
side mode first, and
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll do side mode first because we've got
Or
this
the
set up
people
already.
with good enough climbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'll throw down a whole line.
So what I'll do is I'll go on this. I'll abseil down rather than have to lower me. I'll come off this line and I'll just be on this once you've got me.
That's just me.
Batman a couple of times.
Or were you just pulling the
So
rope?
if you take that off for a second so that I can pull it through.
You mean like give you some slack or?
Take it off completely and I'll go down, so I'm going to abseil on this one. And then I'll stop and you can put me back on. Otherwise it'd just be too hard to feed through. Too slow to feed through more than.
Sorry if I back to you.
Yeah, I'll get out of this spot and you can. Oh, you need this back, don't you?
It's only like 45 meters. Really clear. Oh, it's great. Hitting you.
Actually, don't worry. I'll just improvise. What's that?
Do you have a cord?
Lost video.
A cord?
Lost video.
Do you have a lost video? They said. Yep. Just put it. Back at the car.
So I'll just fix my one, but we don't need it. 20% still.
They said they lost video. You guys,
So,
you got the video back on?
yeah, it's on now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You
Well,
still have
quickly
another
go through
camera
this.
as well.
What? Say again?
You still have another camera as well that's facing towards the view. Just to let you know.
That's the laptop camera.
Right, gotcha.
That's the laptop. We can, if we want to change that, we can put it at. If you want to put it there. Yeah. Oh, if you can. Okay. All right, guys. So we'll try last two scenarios. Yep, last two scenarios. So 3 to 1 hauling. So we're going to do one where we have it already set up in guide mode. And then we're going to do another scenario where you have to completely build it with just using carabiners and Prusiks. Okay, so this is the first scenario. So you would use 3 to 1 hauling. That's all right, yep. James is just going to go down, get himself prepared. So 3 to 1 hauling is basically we're actually hauling or pulling up the climber or the abseiler or someone from below and up somewhere to the top. So basically the way that you can do it, you can actually do 1 line of rope and pull up. That's a 1-on-1. The other way that James showed us was the 2 to 1, where you had the carabiner down and they had the rope basically being pulled through the carabiner. That's a 2 to 1 force. This way is a 3 to 1 force. So there'll be 3 lines of rope that you'll see when we demonstrate. And basically 3 to 1 means that it makes it easier to, not too far, James, don't haul too much. All right, all right, all right. So we're just going to set up in guide mode, and then we'll do the complete manual way. I want to do it here.
Okay, let's just test it. Yeah. I thought I had it. Again, let's just test load this. Yep. Yep, that's all on 3 carabiners, yep. All right, James is just going to fully load on the climbing line. So this is auto locking and braking here. So basically now, to give myself a 3-to-1 advantage, a 3-to-1 advantage is much easier than a 1-on-1 line haul. A 2-to-1 is a sister haul is, as you saw, was okay, not too bad. But let's say the victim is not, or the climber or abseiler is not able to assist, and you have to do the hauling yourself. And little me, I don't have big brawny muscles. Okay.
Don't be so modest.
Is that Cedric? Cedric, I've seen how you haul. I can't compare to you. I've seen how you haul. All right. So for those who don't have, this is the 3-to-1 method is a great way to give yourself an advantage to help haul or bring the victim or the climber, I won't say victim, climber or your abseiler or your person up. And basically, it's a 3-to-1 setup, meaning that for every meter that you haul of the rope, you have to bring this rope up. That means you're bringing the load up. You have to pull 3 meters. So every 1 meter that you bring up, you have to pull 3 meters up. How far is James down the rock cliff? He's about 2 meters down. 2 meters, which means I'm going to have to haul about 6 meters of line to bring him up to the top. Okay, so the way that you do this, so this is on the top belay guide mode. So he's stopped himself here. You need to have a Prusik. You need something to grab onto this rope and basically pull this up. Now, obviously, I can't do that with I don't have monkey grip fingers. So you've got to do that with a Prusik. So we'll get my trusty Prusiks. A nice little short one will do. That's why it's good to have really good Prusik rope, ones that really bite really well. Prusiks that you love. Now I'm on a safety, so bring that. So put your Prusik on the haul line, the load line. I'm just going to use a simple climb heist. I'm not going to do anything fancy. We'll go through Prusik hitches at another time. Is that going to bite? Test your Prusik bite. Okay, maybe one more. Okay, I think that's going to bite. Put a nice round carabiner through that. So this is your load line, and now the hauling line is the other end of the rope. While you're doing this, always make sure that you're on safety as well.
bring your haul line a loop through that carabiner and lock it off. James, I'm just hang for a bit. I'm just setting up the haul line for you. Now, so for me to bring this load line up in this direction, I have to pull the rope in this direction, and then it needs to come up in, I need to pull up. Now you got to find out what position is the most comfortable for you to haul. Sometimes if you're on a really tight little ledge and you need to pull it this way, you might have to redirect that line up with another carabiner up there so that you can pull in this direction. But in this case, I think this is okay. This ledge is wide enough and I can pull back in this direction away from the cliff. So I think my hauling should be okay. Well, I don't know, we can give it a go. All right. So, James, I'm going to try and haul you. So, let's hope that I have enough strength to haul James. Oh, wow. Did you move a bit? Yeah, I did. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Now, mind you, actually, I am surprised that I can haul James off. Okay. So as you can see, the Prusik is biting onto the rope, bringing this up through the device, and then when I let go, basically the ATC in guide mode breaks it off, auto brakes, so that James doesn't go sliding down again. Okay, now let's say it was let's say it was someone I couldn't lift because he was too, yeah, let's say it was Cedric.
Ha, ha, ha.
And I couldn't lift him. And let's say the other thing that can cause extra friction and extra problems with hauling is if your line is over like multiple edges of cliffs. That adds to the friction. That makes it really hard to haul someone up when there's multiple edges that the rope goes over, or you've got a heavy climber. So the other way you can do it is add another 3 to 1, or it's wet. Oh yeah, if your rope's wet, James just added. I've never hauled in wet situations.
Can we have a look at your setup near the belay device again?
You mean at the top?
Can the camera point to the setup near the belay device again?
You mean at the anchor?
Okay, and what are you running? What are you running the Prusik and
down here?
Another thing.
Okay. Okay, so this is the Prusik. So this is the load line. This is where my climber or abseiler is. So basically, you need to think about, something needs to grab onto this rope and bring it up towards the top of the cliff. So you use a Prusik. Make sure it's a really bitey Prusik, a strong Prusik. And then you add a carabiner like this, a nice fat round carabiner. And then basically, so this is your load line. And then basically now, the way I pull, so here is the hauling line here. Okay, so I bring the hauling line through this carabiner, and I'm going to pull in this direction, up, back towards the cliff. Now, let's say it's a tiny little ledge, and it doesn't, and you don't have much pulling action this way towards the cliff. You might need to redirect that line, put another carabiner in, and then pull this way. So you can do it. Think about, your position. If it doesn't work this way, you can redirect up to another carabiner at the top and pull this way. So now I'm gonna, let's say there's a lot of friction and I can't pull the person up, and I could be really tired, running out of breath, and I'm like getting pumped. James, I'm feeling really weak. I'm just gonna add another 3 to 1. So I'm gonna add another 3 to 1 setup. So it becomes a 9 to 1. Again, when you add more lines to haul, as it increases, it means that you're going to have to pull through more. So to pull 1 meter of load line up, I will have to pull 9 meters of rope through. Okay, so let's quickly set up the 9 to 1. So all I need to do is add a Prusik. Now, there you go. So this was the line I was trying to pull on. So now I'm just going to add another Prusik here. So James is safe because this is auto locked off. So we're going to reset this. So as you can see that as you haul the line, the Prusik moves up the line. So when you keep hauling up, this Prusik will move up the load line, and then you have to just reset, bring it back down. So we'll just add another 3 to 1 setup to make it a 9 to 1. Like, so you do this. This is when you're getting tired, or it's really hard, difficult to bring that person up. James, you good there? Always check on your climber or your abseiler or your person to make sure they're okay. That's sliding really nicely. Add another carabiner. So exactly same setup. Bring that down. Okay, so we don't need to put another Prusik up here or something to stop, because this original one, the ATC, will stop James from falling down. Okay, so James, I've set up the 9 to 1. I'm going to haul you now. So it is easier. Can I just say it is easier to haul? Now, another way to do it, to help, you can do a clove hitch onto a carabiner. If you get your arms tied, lock it off to your loop, and if you had enough space on the ledge, you can travel backwards and use your whole weight rather than your arms. Yeah? But as this ledge is really narrow, I can't really demonstrate it, but try to use your body weight rather than your arms.
And one thing that could help also for the grip is to wrap the rope around your forearm. So if you can see my camera, I got a cable here. If you wrap around this way, you create a lot of friction on your forearm, so that you have like less to bite with your hand, but it's more friction. That helps you to pull.
So I just redirected it. That just made it so much easier. James, how are you going down there? All right. So my as you can see, now I've got to reset this. James, I'm going to reset. So just hang in there. I got nowhere to. Okay, so I've got to reset this. Okay. So basically, loosen up your Prusik, bring it down. Loosen up this Prusik, bring that down as well. So you have to reset both Prusiks. Right down to the bottom. Okay, there you go. Then reset this one. Okay. Down to the bottom. Okay. Bring that up. And I'm going to redirect it because it's just easier. Gary James hauling. So as you can see, I'm using my body weight to pull down. So actually I found this is a really easier way instead of just using just pure arms. Hey. All right. Hopefully you got that. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. I'm really stoked. I hauled James. I rescued you. Okay. So James, lock yourself up in safety. Are there any questions so far? No questions now.
How did you get that strong in the last 6 months?
How did I get that strong?
Are we doing the final scenario as well?
Yeah, but I won't get you down. I'll just show them what happens at the top.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. How did I get strong? No, I didn't get stronger. I just applied the 9-to-1, and I've worked out. Always try to use body weight to pull down or pull back rather than just use arms. You'll get so much more strength from using the whole body weight. Also, if you have someone like Cedric and James on the team, say, Cedric, do the hauling, mate. Now, I'm going to show you the last scenario, which is hauling using without, if you didn't have the guide mode. So the bottom setup will be exactly the same. You put your Prusiks and your carabiners through, but I'll just show you.
Go on that one, like that, stuff just over the edge. Be very close.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. James wants to go over the edge again for some reason. Sorry with my back. Yep. So this setup is that we have to throw a haul line down. Okay, let me just clean up again. And this will be the last scenario before the dying light. That's right. The 2nd of May.
Third of May.
3rd. Sorry, I'm the day behind. Now, obviously, this is all using manual equipment. If you've got fancy gear, like the Petzl crevasse kit, if you got pulleys, that definitely makes your job so much easier. Okay. So just give me 1 minute. I'll just dismantle and just quickly show. To do the manual setup. This is actually what they teach you at those proper courses. They don't really show you with pulleys and stuff like that. They show you the manual way. Yeah, I know. Oh, I have to take this all out. Okay. All right, battery's 10%.
If you don't want to get like fancy gears, or you cannot because it can be expensive,
so
there are like some
scenario. Maybe you're rescuing an abseiler who gets stuck, or someone at the bottom that needs to come up, or they injured themselves, whatever.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just go down a little bit.
Yep, James is going to go down a little bit. And this is the scenario where we throw down a haul line. All right. So James is stuck, and this is a typical scenario where you're abseiling down the line.
Oh, the rope doesn't get to the bottom, and I don't know how to Prusik up.
Yep, that could be a scenario where the rope doesn't reach the bottom, he doesn't know how to Prusik up, or he doesn't have Prusiks on him, or and we need to haul him out. Obviously, this is only going to work if the patient is if the person is conscious. If he's not conscious, it's not a really good idea to haul someone up a side of the cliff because it might cause them more damage. Yep, you need specialized equipment, or in that case, if the person's unconscious, it's best to go abseil down to them and do a tandem abseil. Okay, James, so what you're going to do is throw a haul line to them. James, I'm going to lower down this line to you and clip the both carabiners to your harness loop. So while he's doing that, we're going to set up anchor here. Oh, okay. Okay, James. So if you didn't have, let's say you don't have an ATC guide mode, this is purely using carabiners and Prusiks. Okay. So get your rope through the carabiner. Get a really, really short Prusik setup. The best Prusik hitch to use for this is an auto block because it's easy to release. So basically, this is your load line or the climber or an abseiler line. This is the line where the person is going to be loaded on. Okay, that's an auto block. And it's just easy to move and release. We'll show you the hitches in the Prusik session and go through all the advantages and disadvantages. So put that on another carabiner. Let's just make sure that's biting. Yep, I think it is. And as you pull through, it will allow the rope to go through, but when you release the rope and the load's loaded, it's going to bite. Okay, James. So that's what happens. Okay, now we'll set up the 3-to-1 again. So, Prusik, loop, down at the bottom. Can you guys see? It's a bit dark. Sorry, I'm trying to work as fast as I can. It might be the fastest haul I've done.
In reality, though, this type of thing often happens at the end of the day. So often you're in this sort of like, it's all gone pear-shaped, trying to get out of somewhere.
James, we'll get you out of here by dark.
Excellent.
All right. Because I don't have a head torch. So get your Prusik line down as far as you can to the edge. So we got Prusik on the load line. We got the carabiner locked up. This is the pull. All right, let's try the 3-to-1. Hauling. There you go. So hauling through. And as you can see, if I let go now, this system is where this the load rope will go back down. And as you can see, it's biting. Let's just check that it's biting. Beautiful. It is. And I love bright orange, yellow ropes. Woohoo!
Oh, that was scary.
Awesome. And it worked. Hey, any questions so far?
Cool.
Wow.
Thank you. Thanks for rescuing.
You're welcome, James. I don't know if you're coming.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, was there any questions arising out of that?
It was pretty fast. Sorry, folks.
Hopefully, even if you didn't get all of it, you've got enough entry points now that you can actually maybe look up a few of those little bits and pieces. And I thoroughly encourage everyone to practice these things. Go spend an afternoon in a park or whatever, or find one of us who are keen to go out someday and do a few of these techniques when you are not under the pressure of having to actually do it for a survival situation, and get familiar with how to do those things. Thank you so much for joining. It was a lot of people signed up for this one, so I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much, Susan, for doing this with me. It's been invaluable. Thank you to Ronnie for doing the switching of the camera work. And thank you for our camera person, Jess. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, James.
Thank you, James, for organising all of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well done.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Clove.
Thank you, everyone.
Feel free to shoot any questions that come up later on back to that full email list that I sent out this afternoon. And be good to reply all, because if you've got a good question, it's good that everyone can see the answer. And other than that, have a great evening. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you soon.
See you.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.